Hey guys, Lockie here, back with another video. So today I wanted to cover a really quick tip on tacking, how original. I just wanted to cover a comment that was left on one of my previous videos, on the heel side tacking video. I actually think it was a really good point, and it's something that I think I was subconsciously doing, but I think it'll really help people to understand like the physics of the tack and how to get through the tack without breaching the foil. Yeah, just like loading the board the correct way as you turn through the tack. So, jump on my laptop, I'll pull up the comment, and similar to the heel side tacking video, we're gonna go frame by frame through some of my tacks. And yeah, I just wanna sort of talk about a couple things. Over to the laptop. So yeah, as I said, one of the legends on my previous videos pointed out that I enter the tack with my board low to the water, which actually compensates for the natural rise of the board. So there's two things I wanted to run through with this. First being the keeping the board low to the water part, and then the second part being, I wanted to explain that natural rise of the board as you carve through the tack and why that happens and sort of how that looks as you progress through tacking and sort of start to dial your tacking in. Let's have a dig through frame by frame. So just riding along, board's got a bit of a natural lean onto it. Getting that rail close to the water. And this is the thing that I wanted to really point out is, yeah, it's board close to the water as I start the carve, as I start the enter into the tack. But the more important thing is it's your inside rail that's close to the water. As you progress with tacking and start banking your board over more, foil's going to get closer to the surface. But the thing you want to maintain is keeping that rail, that inside rail, close to the water. Because yeah, as you push through the tack and sort of the board levels out and has that natural rise, you've sort of compensated for that because you've kept that rail low. So as you sort of press out and lift, the board will be in the correct spot and it'll prevent you from, launching out of the sky or, breaching. Cool. So yeah, let's dig through a few more frames. You can see with this one, I've actually started to lift my wing overhead and pressure on the backhand because I'm getting ready for the quick rollover. So keeping a bit of pressure in the backhand to get that roll happening, leading with the front hand, trailing with the backhand, getting that wing to roll as I spoke about in my heel side tacking video. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. Shameless plug. Yeah, and you can see in this frame still, the rail's close to the water. And you can actually see my mast. So there's probably a decent amount of the mast actually out of the water, but because I'm, got a decent angle of carve, or I've sort of entered the tack with a little bit more of an aggressive carve, and I'm compensating for that by making sure that rail stays close to the water. So yeah, you can see a couple more frames through, rail still close to the water. Also in this video, and pretty much all my videos, I'm riding a 105 centimeter mast. So whilst this might look like a lot of mast out of the water, the foil's still, a decent amount below the surface, and especially because it's a little bit choppy, so there's gonna be a little bit of variation in this one, but still a good video to point it out because you can really clearly see that rail is, 100, 200 mil off the water at most. Yep, and then now we're seeing, I've gone through head to wind, I'm starting to get through the other side of the tack. I've brought both hands to the front, I'm getting ready for that hand switch. Here we go, a few more frames through. I got that real twisted stance, exiting that heel side tack, trying to get my backhand to that back handle. Bang, power comes on. So to look at that tack again, we've got enter into the tack nice and sheeted. As I start turning into the breeze, I'm really trying to be accurate with getting that rail close to the water. And as the board sort of levels out through the turn, it has a natural incline to lift up. And there we go, that's that tack. I'll try and pull up another one just as a slightly better example of that natural rise out of the tack. What can happen, I guess, as you progress with tacking is that natural rise, you learn to compensate for it pretty early, and you can actually take advantage of it to get that foot switch out of the tack. We can have a quick look at this one as well. So a bit of a windier day, and this is a really good angle to see that how much roll I guess I've got on the board, how much I'm getting that inside rail close to the water. As we step frame through this one, the rail actually kisses one of the waves, like a little bit of chop as it starts to turn through the breeze. I guess ideally you don't want it to do that, but you're better off having that little tiny touchdown than being too high and foil breaching and crashing. So yeah, you can see turning through the breeze, and board does this natural little rise, foot switch happens, off we go. Another good example of that, keeping that rail close to the water. Sweet. Okay, so that's some examples of the first thing I wanted to touch on, the rail being close to the water through the carve. Second thing that I wanted to touch on was the natural rise. I don't think I've found a great example so far, so let's have another little dig for exactly what I'm trying to show. The reason I haven't seen anything as yet is because as you dial in the tack, you learn to compensate for that natural rise and take advantage of it for the foot switch. Alright, cool. This is the video from my hillside tacking video that I did a little while ago. Yeah, so we'll step through that. This time let's just look for the natural rise of the board. So rail's pretty close through. This is where the natural rise starts to happen. So what you'll notice is, for me, when I look at this, there's two things that are compensating to getting the board to rise. One thing I learned from foiling catamarans was basically you need a combination of two things to get the boat out of the water. That was, you needed speed, but you also needed to unload the foils. So like take weight off the foils so that they could, so that the amount of lift that they had, like the residual lift that they had at the time with the speed that you generated, instead of increasing the lift, you could reduce the amount of weight force pushing down. So it's something to think about, especially if you're doing like speed runs. If you're going absolutely hammering fast and then you just let go of the wing, your board's going to rise, because what you've done is you've taken that load that's getting pushed through the center of effort in your feet and you've reduced it. You're still getting, you know, for that split second, you've still got the same amount of lift going through your foil because you're still going the same speed, but you've got this up force and you've completely reduced this downward force that was coming from your sail, because your sail is obviously going to have I guess like a horizontal component helping you go forward, and it's going to have a vertical component. If you reduce that vertical component by letting go of the sail, your board's going to rise. So we apply that to tacking. You know, we're riding into the tack, we're still sort of sheeted here. As soon as we let go, your board's going to want to rise. So the second thing that's helping your board rise is the actual arc that you're turning through, because you're essentially accelerating your foil by turning it. And you'll notice this if you ever try it. You can almost turn your foil like this when you're pumping to try and sneak it up onto the foil a little earlier. Next time you're out in the water, have a go. Just try and like swivel the board side to side, and you'll actually feel the pressure through your feet from moving that foil side to side. These two can sneak up on you when you're trying to learn the tack, because you're going into the tack thinking, okay, I've set my ride height, I'm turning through the tack, everything's perfect. Suddenly you let go of your hands and you're turning at the same time. Why is my board wanting to shoot out of the sky? And that's the reason. You're reducing the downward force by letting go of the sail, or the wing, and then you're actually accelerating the foil, so pushing more lift through it by turning. Yeah, so that was the 2 points. Keep your rail close to the water. Make sure to account for the natural rise of the board. By keeping the rail close to the water, you're actually helping to account for it, but you can also account for it with your foot pressure. As you're actually turning through the breeze, you might need to add just a little bit of foot pressure. Cool. That was it for me. Sort of wanted that one to be a little bit quick, so hopefully it hasn't ended up being too long. But yeah, thanks again to Alan for the comment on the hillside tacking video, for the inspiration for this one. Yeah, hoping to put together some more videos in the future, so make sure you subscribe, and yeah, stay tuned for some more videos coming soon. Thanks for watching.